Hey guys, welcome to Top Table Gaming. Today we are going to be looking at the brand new match play guide for Middle Earth SBG. Hey guys, welcome to Top Table Gaming. You're here with your host Top Table Ben.
Top Table Jay.
And as I said into the introduction, we are going to be looking through the brand new match play guide for Middle Earth SBG today. This is something that we've been the community's been looking forward to for a bit. And I think it's something that the kind of competitive element of the game has kind of missed, although there's some really talented TOs out there and a lot of people that are very experienced. For so many new people coming into the game, I think this is a bit of a godsend for those people that want to run their own events.
For many years, obviously, we've all been part of running and going to events, and this is really great because it shows that Middle Earth are now going. We really appreciate the tournaments that are going up and down the country, and we're going to formalise the rules system to give you how we see the game and how the thing is. This is the rules for how they design the game, not our interpretation of it, and it gives us kind of a standardised thing that can roll out right across the world and us all follow, which is good.
Absolutely. So, shall we take a little bit of a closer look at the book?
It's new book day. Let's dive in. Happy new book day.
So, it is. Lovely picture of the
I love the I don't know if it's showing on camera, but it's got this beautiful spot gloss as well.
Yes.
The art is gorgeous.
One thing that is different about this book to all the other books is this is a soft cover.
It is.
So it's not hardcover like the other ones. So, but obviously there's fewer pages in this. This is something that maybe kind of updated a little bit more frequently, perhaps.
Do you know what's interesting as well? So we got to have me and Steve got to have a look at this at the New Year's Open day, and that was A5.
Right,
so we were expecting a smaller book, but
so they made it
tricksy.
So made it to kind of match the existing books and things.
My OCD couldn't handle having a small book without a big one, so I'm glad.
Exactly. So let's dive in. Little look. So in the introduction, basically it's giving you a bit of a flavour of what is in this book. So recommended tournament stars, scenario pool system, which we'll discuss in a bit more depth in this video. Match play scenarios and the doubles event scenarios. Now those are two things that we are going to be doing another video on.
Yes.
So look out for those over the next few days. There's also information on the campaign events and additional rules, which we'll have a little bit of a dive into in this video. So first up is recommended tournament styles. So the roles and responsibilities, who you need there to organise it, referees, scorekeepers, spare players, etc, etc.
Breaks down all the different roles for people helping organise an event and what they should and shouldn't be responsible for.
Yeah,
and such.
Absolutely. There's also a section on scoring and tiebreakers, which I think is really important because if you've never run your own event before, this sort of thing could be a bit alien to you and you wouldn't know how this is going to how to run an event essentially. This gives you a much clearer understanding of how to do those. It's not. It does say in the book that this isn't the only way you can do it, but this is how they would recommend doing it. And in the further information bits at the end, we'll discuss some of the other ways that you could do tiebreakers and other things as well. Goes on to discuss pairing systems and obviously how you pair up people and how you kind of make sure that people don't face the same people again. And one of the really interesting things is this table at the bottom here, which gives an idea of points limits, how many games you should have per day, the round times, and the recommended board size, which is quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially the board size, because for 1,000 points, it does specify that a 6x4 table is needed.
To be fair, 1,000 a 4x4 is going to get a little busy, isn't it?
A little bit crowded, yeah. But I think for the previous scenarios that you look through in the book, it doesn't specify a table size. So you could play it on any size table. It's quite good especially for competitive settings and things like this. They've formalised that and given us a definitive size of what they recommend. On this page there is a result sheet, which is quite handy. I'm hoping that they will potentially do that as a printout that you can get off the website. That would be very useful.
I'm going to go one further. I'm hoping they do another general's accessories pack because we don't have cards for the new 6 scenarios.
That is very true.
Do you know how in the old one you get like a roster sheet?
Yeah.
They could do a TO's one, which comes with a result sheet thing.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be very cool. But either way, I would like to see that.
Yes.
It does. I think this is designed for photocopying, but I would like to see something.
I think it does. Yeah.
I think it'd be better if there was some sort of way of printing them off. But yeah, so one of the first kind of really interesting and really cool things that they've done in this book is the scenario pool.
This is huge.
It is.
I love this. Jay Clare was telling us about this at New Year when we got to have a flick through the book, and this was the thing that got me the most excited.
Yes. So essentially, you know, when we've played in tournament, both you and I've played in a tournament before, you always, with your army, you always think, I wish that tournament, that scenario comes up, or I wish that type of scenario comes up, basically because it's better for your army, or
I want to play the Horde in Lords of Battle. I want to play the all hero model in Domination.
Exactly.
Kind of there are scenarios which suit certain lists, and you'd kind of pray for the draw, and you'd also dread going into certain scenarios yourself.
Absolutely. So what this aims to do is, or you know, what other people have potentially done in the past is, if you've looked out and got 2 or 3 scenarios that really kind of suit your army, you can end up winning, not necessarily because of your player skill, but because you were lucky in coming up against.
A lot of TOs, we've done it as well in the past, will randomise the scenarios you're going to play, and that can add an element that makes it tough. So they've come up with a new way of still letting you randomise the scenarios to a degree, but giving kind of a varied list of scenarios.
Absolutely. So there are now 6 pools of scenarios, which are separated out in terms of pool 1 is Maelstrom of battle scenarios, pool 2 is hold objective scenarios, pool 3 is object scenarios, pool 4 is kill the enemy scenarios, pool 5 is manoeuvring scenarios, and pool 6 is unique scenarios.
Yes.
And essentially the TO can roll a dice, pick which pool, and then you can do a D3, and then you can pick which one. It just means that when you play in a tournament, you aren't going to just potentially come up against the 2 or 3 very similar scenarios.
Correct. It's like if you go to a 6-round event, which is pretty standard, it means that over the weekend you're going to play 1 from each pool, and then you're going to randomise within. So again, you can D3 roll it. So it means that when you're writing lists now, you've got to be you've got to make sure you've got a bit of a Swiss Army knife list that can handle something from each pool, but you still get that unique variation within a tournament because you're only going to play a third of the scenarios. And we've got 6 new ones.
Absolutely,
Exciting times.
So it's, as I said, they've added an extra scenario into each of these now to make it up to 18. So again, you know, you were always going to play 50% of the old scenarios. Now you're only ever going to play generally a third of the new scenarios as well. So I think this is a really cool way that they have made sure that tournaments aren't just favouring certain armies, which is cool. Absolutely fantastic. So really pleased with how that has turned out. Now we're not going to discuss the scenarios in this video. We will come back to these guys in later.
There'll be another video where we cover the new scenarios.
Absolutely. But just to give you guys that are watching this video a little bit of a flavour of the ones that are in here, we've got Command the Battlefield, Retrieval, Breakthrough, Destroy the Supplies, Divide and Conquer, and Assassination.
So that puts us at 18 core single player scenarios.
Absolutely. So
which is exciting times.
Absolutely. And you know, as I said at the beginning, we've all played the 12 scenarios to death now. Some of them more than others, so it's great to add an extra 6 scenarios to the roster, and keeps you thinking as well, because you know, some people get very used to playing scenarios in a certain way, so it'll be very interesting to see how people have to vary their armies or differ their play styles to play.
Could even shake up the meta a little bit.
It could indeed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens then. Next up, we've got doubles scenarios and doubles events, which
this is so cool.
This is really cool. There's never really been any scenarios for doubles previously, has there?
Doubles is probably doubles and teams are my favourite way to play the game, because you can have a bit of camaraderie and stuff. And we've all been to lots of doubles events, and effectively you just play the single player scenarios, and you take one force that is effectively split in half and controlled between 2 of you. The fact that they're giving you full rules and that kind of bring in leader breaking, how the legendary legions work and stuff into doubles and doubles scenarios is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait to try these.
So again, we're not going to go into the exact scenarios. So you've got one called No Escape, Total Conquest, you've got Take and Hold, you've got Clash of Champions, Cornered, and Duel of Wits. So they're all unique scenarios. They aren't kind of repeated from the single scenarios, so it's great to have a completely bespoke set of scenarios for doubles. Let's move on to the campaign events next. Now, this is something I've never played in. Have you ever played in the campaign?
Me and Steve started one about 4 years ago, and it never finished, sadly, just due to people being busy. We had a huge map and everything. But ultimately, it was effectively just, let's all just play games. It was very hard to structure a campaign event, so it's not something I've ever played in. It's always been on my kind of Middle Earth bucket list, though. So this is something that is essentially it's like running a normal tournament, but they kind of split or everybody into kind of 2 teams, which is quite cool. So the pairings work in much the same way as you would in a regular tournament, but you play across
different areas of Middle Earth. So Eriador, Rohan, Rhovanion, Mordor, Haradwaith and Gondor. And depending on where you are playing, you kind of get extra bonuses. So essentially, if one half of the players, if they win an area, they then get to keep a bonus for that area because they take control of that area. So in order to take control of an area, they have to win the majority of their games, and then at the end, the overall winners are those that manage to win most territories.
That's cool. So you play as two teams, and your individual scores don't matter. It's the full round score for your team, and you fight for region.
Great.
Oh, that's so cool.
Now I'm sure you could have, you could still play this as a regular tournament, but this just adds an extra element to that. So you could play either as good versus evil.
Exactly.
There was also suggestions that you could split everybody into elves, dwarves, men,
races,
different races. So that would be really, really cool. But I think as a good and evil, I think this would be a really cool way of doing it.
Love it.
So as I mentioned, there are these different regions. So Eriador, which is kind of where the Shire is, and things. The special rule for this area is protection of the elves. Whilst fighting a battle in Eriador, all models gain the resistance to magic special rule.
Nice.
Which goes kind of against the magic users to some extent. So if you're quite a magic heavy army, this kind of goes against you a little bit. But if they win this area, you get the campaign bonus. So if your faction controls Eriador, then hero models in your army may reroll results of a 1 when making fate rolls.
Oh, that's going to be annoying.
So it's it gives you a much better chance of passing your fate rolls if you are in control of this region. Great, fantastic stuff. For Rohan, you get, whilst fighting a battle in Rohan, all hero models gain the Horse Lord special rule. So again, it benefits mounted armies. So if you do play Rohan or Wargs, for example, this does kind of benefit you.
It's kind of a very fitting bonus of the territory, which you can't fault.
Yeah. And the campaign bonus is if your faction controls Rohan, then whenever a mount in your army suffers a wound, roll a d6. On a 5 plus, that wound is ignored exactly as if a point of fate had been spent.
It's like old channeled fury on your horses. That's amazing.
Which is fantastic. So again, it just gives you that real thematic bonus for that army.
It's the unstoppable charge, isn't it?
It's
just going to keep coming.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. I think that sort of thing would. It's going to make you question, if you come up against some mounted heroes, am I going to go for the hero or am I going to go for the horse? Because actually the horse has got a fate roll as well, so it's you would potentially question what you're going to be targeting.
Yeah, of course.
Rhovanion is stand and fight. Whilst fighting a battle in Rhovanion, all models must reroll failed courage tests for being broken, which is fantastic.
It's amazing for evil.
Especially for even for sort of like higher courage warriors as well. So you even if you do fail, which is unlikely for higher courage stuff, you are still going to be hanging around. And the campaign bonus is if your faction controls Rhovanion, your leader gains the fearless special rule.
Nice.
So that's cool as well. Next one up is Mordor. So this one is quite unique and does it kind of affects everyone a little bit differently. So the special rule is Eye of Sauron. Whilst fighting a battle in Mordor, the Eye of Sauron will be watching. At the start of the game, place a 25mm marker in the centre of the board. This is where the Eye of Sauron is focused. During the priority phase, after priority has been determined, the player with priority may move the marker up to 6 inches. Good models within 3 inches of the marker suffer a -1 penalty to their courage. Evil models within 3 inches of the marker may reroll 1s to wound when making strikes.
Wowzers.
So I think evil have definitely got the upper hand there. Although, being able to
regardless of who's it's just that's good.
There is no benefit to good are going to struggle with.
Let's be honest though, Gothmog's Legion's not going to need that. It's rerolling enough stuff anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And the campaign bonus: if your faction controls Mordor, then hero models in your army gain the Terror special rule.
That's wicked. Yeah,
it is. It just means that you're controlling who's charging who generally.
Controlling that counter charge is huge.
Exactly. Next one is Haradwaith. Desolate land. Whilst fighting a battle in Haradwaith, the great Heat of the Desert Lands will have an effect on those fighting models with heavy armor, dwarf armor, or heavy dwarf armor. Reduce their move allowance by 1 inch.
Oh, that's
horrible. So if you're already taking dwarves that are moving 5 inches,
Iron Hill's just
they're working for, so that Haradwatch is not their friend. In terms of campaign bonus, if your faction controls Haradwatch, then hero models in your army gain the poison weapon special rule for all of their weapons. So that's re-rolling ones from memory.
That's amazing.
So that's really, really good, that. And then last but not least is Gondor. City of Numenor. Whilst fighting a battle in Gondor, all models add 1 to their courage value.
Solid. Yeah,
absolutely. And the campaign bonus, if your faction controls Gondor, then the range of banners in your army is increased to 6 inches.
These are really cool, and the good thing is they're not crazy, but you're definitely going to feel the effects in game, which I think is wicked.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to benefit from having these in your game.
That's reflective of kind of, if you own more territory, then you are going to have kind of more benefits and things.
Absolutely.
I think the only thing that my only sort of criticism would be that as soon as somebody starts getting 2 or 3 of these, then potentially the last games could be a little bit tough.
If you're late game controlling 5 of them, then it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But I think they're all very cool.
Yeah, so really, really cool. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that there will be some events that run using this sort of campaign. I'd be really, really interested to participate and play along with that. So that'd be good. There's also a nice little map there showing all the different areas.
We're about to get to the last bit.
And then the last few pages.
Additional rules.
The additional rules. So major and minor victories. These are things that have been applied to many tournaments.
Yes.
And there's quite a few tournaments that run using major and minor victories. So for a major victory, you get 6 tournament points. Minor victories, 5 tournament points. For a draw, you get 2 tournament points. For a minor loss, you get 1 tournament point, and major loss, 0 tournament points. Essentially, if you get a major victory if you've got more than twice the number of VPs in the scenario than your opponent. Get minor victory if you just get more. For a draw, obviously it's the same. Minor loss is less than half of what the opponent's got. And then major loss is more than half.
So it's always going to be major loss, major victory, or minor loss, minor victory. Correct?
You can always get a draw.
Yes, or a draw.
Oh yeah, or a draw. Yeah, absolutely.
The important thing is as well, and I know this from other game systems, they've done it well because it's important that 2 draws don't equal a minor victory, or that can screw your late game standings. So that's quite cool.
So it's people that haven't done quite as well kind of end up doing better than people who have won games.
Yeah, because a 4 and 1 could be equivalent to a 3 and a 2 on the draws kind of thing.
Yeah.
So good.
So that's quite cool. So that's adding an extra way of doing tiebreakers. So the tiebreakers that they suggest is VP difference, which is kind of the standard way that a lot of tournaments run. So it's the difference between the number of VPs that you've scored versus the number you've conceded. So you might have won every game, but if you only won every game by 1 victory point, then you're not going to be potentially that high up. Then the recommended second one is total number of VPs. So again, if somebody's got 12 VPs in all their games, then they should be way ahead. So this is kind of different ways of running those tiebreakers, I guess. Which leads me on to the next section, which is switching tiebreakers, which gives you different ways of doing it as well, depending on what sort of event you want to run. So obviously, if it's a super competitive event, then you'll probably do VP difference and things like that. However, you could run it on favourite game votes, number of secret objectives achieved, which we'll jump onto in a minute. Number of games where your leader has survived.
It's an interesting one, actually.
Yeah, it is, because that's going to make you very cautious with your
that
leader.
Old fatty Bulger general hidden in a wood might come back into play in that tournament pack.
The number of major victories or favourite army votes, which is a nice fluffy way of doing it, and it's a nice friendly way of doing it as well. There's also a bit of a detail about escalation events. So kind of how to drop your rules pack, and obviously that you would need to submit all the different points levels, which is quite cool. I've never played an escalation event, which is something I'd like to try over the next couple of years.
World Champion run one recently, didn't he? Was that last year?
That might have been last year.
Yeah, I've never done escalation.
But I think it would be quite interesting. So there's just a few pointers there. And then last but not least, this is one that you quite like, isn't it?
I adore secret objectives in tournaments. AOS have a lot of they're called hidden agendas in AOS, but they're more and more used, and I love it. It's so good.
So this is a essentially there are 12 different secret objectives. You choose 3, and then your opponent makes you roll for 1, so you end up kind of...
That's interesting.
It's kind of randomised a little bit to some extent. So it's not just the case of you choose which one you want. You choose 3 and then
they randomise.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. I've always just picked the... I'd have all 12, and then across my 6 games I've got to use all 12. Yeah. Usually you pick 2 a game.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting because there is still a little bit of randomising.
Yeah, so you can't pick, well, I'm definitely going to get that one. You have to kind of think, well, which one of these 3 could I get, or which are my favourite 3 there for this scenario.
The reason I love secret objectives as well is because it forces you to, especially if it's a tiebreaker, it forces you to think about all 6 games. Because it's like, which ones do I put down? But like, especially with the new pool system, you can be like, okay, I know I'm playing a Maelstrom game. I know I'm playing an object game, and it's like that one should be for that pool.
Yeah.
And you can end up having to make some really hard choices yourself. And if the dice roll is wrong, you've burnt an objective that you probably wanted to score in round 4, in round 2. And I think that's really interesting.
And the other thing as well is I've played in tournaments where I've almost completely forgotten about the secret objectives, and I've played the game, and I've done okay, but actually because I haven't got any of my secret objectives throughout the tournament, it meant that I've actually really dropped down the tables because I just haven't scored any. So some of the secret objectives are on this page.
Yep.
So you've got bring them down, which is kill all monster models in your opponent's army by the end of the game. Monster models that flee the board count towards scoring this secret objective. So that's quite cool. Obviously, it's
list dependent.
It is, and it does say that if you obviously can't score them if they've already if they haven't got any monsters, so you'd have to go for something else. Do you want to read the next one?
Yes, we've got duel to the death. Have your leader kill the enemy leader in combat. Your leader must cause every wound to the enemy leader to score this secret objective. So
that's a tough one.
So what that means is you're going to be deploying that in Contest of Champions, and go in as soon as you can. It
depends who you're up against. If you've got let's say Gothmog and you're going up against Sauron, that's going to be a tough one to do. But
it's an interesting one.
It is. Next one is sending a message. Kill the most expensive hero model, including war gear, in their points cost in your opponent's force. If the most expensive hero is part of 2 hero models brought together, for example Eladan and Elrohir or Burin and Dra, then you must kill both to score this secret objective.
Nice.
So that's interesting. Next one.
So we've got minimise casualties. Have at least 75% of your starting number still alive at the end of the game. That's a tough one. That's really for any army.
Yeah,
that is grim.
Really, really tough. I think you'd have to play very sort of carefully.
All hero is probably the only list that's going to swing into that. Semi-confident in the right scenario.
Yeah. You've got Unsung Hero. Have the cheapest hero model in your force alive at the end of the game. If the cheapest hero is part of 2 hero models brought together, for example Sigrid and Tilda, then you must have both alive at the end of the game to score this secret objective.
That's good.
So I can see now, if you've got a force like a Minas Tirith force, you might take Baragond, who's 30 odd points. Use his might point to do a heroic move, and then keep him well at the back. Just get him to ping a few arrows into combat.
Yep. So number 6, Combat Master. Have any hero model in your force kill at least 10 enemy models over the course of the game. That's work. That's like Balls getting to the top end of his skill tree, isn't it?
And
how often does that actually happen? I don't think loads.
I'm just sort of thinking of recent games. Even with Aragorn, you're having to heroic combat every turn to kind of get to that point, and even then it's
that's 4 turns of heroic combating through troops into troops into troops into troops. And usually at some point the enemy hero will interject in that and be like, right, we're going, and
give you a bit of a roadblock.
Exactly.
So that's going to be a tough one. Ranged Warfare. Kill more enemy models with your shooting attacks than your opponent by the end of the game. Completely army dependent, that one.
It is, but the interesting thing is if you've built, it's not as obvious as you think. So if you've built a shooting list, you can probably score that in any scenario.
Yes.
So it's actually a case of holding it to the one that you least like for anything else.
Absolutely.
It's not just a case of I'll play this round 1 because I can do it. There is still an element of tactics of holding it until the scenario.
I can probably get this one even in my 6th game, so I'll see how the rest of them have gone, see which one that I want.
That's you in the bank, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Next one.
Slay the Wizard. Kill all enemy models that can cast magical powers by the end of the game. Enemy models that flee count towards scoring this objective. That's tough. Because you'd never stick a wizard on the front lines unless it's Elrond, for example.
I think the only time potentially you would do it is against shamans, so orc shamans, maybe at the end of the game if they happen to run. Because nobody's going to, in their right mind, is going to put them on the front line unless you maybe heroic combat into them or something like that. But that's going to be a really tough one.
If you play White Council, you're putting that back in the box, aren't you?
Nope. I'll leave that one. I'll leave that one.
Exactly.
So if you're playing against them, sort of thing. It's just like I'm never getting that one. Next one is Master of Woodland. Control any piece of woodland terrain on the board at the end of the game. To control a terrain piece, you need at least 3 friendly models wholly within the terrain piece and no enemy models wholly within that terrain piece. So that one, it's going to be board dependent.
Yeah, it definitely works at Warhammer World where you see a lot of wildwoods
yes.
and things like that. But maybe at one of Steve's events where we've got like Lake Town Bree and all that stuff, it might be a bit tougher to achieve.
And I don't think it's necessarily a difficult one, but obviously if your opponent knows or has got an inkling that you might be going for that one, if you
their deployment could just be in front of it, right?
Yeah, or you've just got 3 little guys kind of snuck away, hiding in a woodland.
It's interesting because in like round 5, round 6, I think early rounds you're just going to be concentrating on scoring yours as much as possible.
Yeah.
When you get to round 5, round 6, and you're all bracketed off into your win-loss draw ratios, like it's going to start becoming really important to deny your opponents.
Yes.
Because late game, when you're all sat so close, that's going to be the difference.
It is.
So, definitely, that's definitely one that you'd try and fortify around, I think.
Yeah. Definitely. Next
cool.
one.
So Master of Cities, control any building on the board at the end of the game. To control a building, you must have 3 friendly models wholly within or on the building, and no enemy models wholly within or on that building.
So it's the same thing, but for buildings.
That's very interesting because most buildings are just a footprint that you can't be in. So I wonder if base contact counts as on.
I think it's something that you'd probably need to discuss with the TO.
Yeah, TO would clear.
But they'd be able to keep it, sort of clarify that. Take and hold. Have at least twice as many models wholly within 6 inches of the centre of the board than your opponent at the end of the game. Now, this was an interesting one I was thinking when I was reading it earlier. So you might be tempted to go for this one if you're playing something like Domination, but then
hold
ground or anything like that. So is your opponent.
If you're Goblin Town or Hobbits and you can get there quick enough, that's one you'd drop. But it is very situational.
But again, is that something that your opponent's going for? Might it be something that you just hold back for when you're playing a scenario that doesn't require you necessarily to be in the middle and just try and draw the enemy away then just draw some people towards drop some people towards the middle.
Yeah, because it doesn't reference an objective. It's just the middle of the board.
Just middle of the board.
So you could just retreat with some 2 models at the end of the game and actually wholly score it.
Yeah,
on a Maelstrom mission, that would be a really interesting one actually, where you're coming on from all angles.
So that could be very different. I think that's one that. Again, I think I'd probably be tempted to play it in a scenario where you don't necessarily need to be the middle.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
And then Worthy Leader. Have your leader survived the game having suffered no wounds and spent no fate. That's another one that's good for your Gandalf leaders.
It is,
your support leaders.
Yeah, I think anybody who's getting into combat, you are going to be risking fate points. You are going to be risking wounds. So that might be one for. Again, that's almost like a banker if you've got like Gandalf or something like that.
Yeah.
So those are the 12 secret objectives, which I love, and we have come to the end of the book. So let's get back in front of the camera.
And there we are.
So what do you think?
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Obviously, the initial reaction when we heard about this was new scenarios.
Yeah.
But the scenario pool is amazing. I adore the secret objectives. I think that adds so much to a tournament. And what they've basically really developed the player experience of a tournament weekend now. They've standardised what is going to go on. So you go to one event, you're going to understand them all in the most part. But you've got the pooled scenarios. So you are playing a balanced combination of scenarios.
Yeah.
You've got secret objectives and things like that. It's just going to make event, plus the new scenarios, of course, the 6 new ones.
Yep.
Odds are you're going to play 2 of those, even when it's randomised. It's just going to put a whole new lease of life into events.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is so exciting. What about you?
Even some of this as well, I can almost see applying to just your regular games. So
Yes.
like you could have secret objectives in your regular games as well, just to
absolutely. Why not?
as an extra, little extra to your game, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything in that game.
The thing is, if you score a draw, like how many times do we play a casual game that's a draw?
Yeah.
The secret objectives could be the resolution to that.
Exactly.
Did I score mine? Did I deny yours?
That's really cool. So overall, I think this book is absolutely fantastic.
Very exciting.
Is it for everybody, do you think?
I think there's something in there for everybody.
Yeah.
Because you're more narrative players, you've got the campaign mode. For people who want to just get together with their mates, the campaign mode's great. You've got the doubles event for people who want the camaraderie and are hanging out. And then, of course, the singles stuff, because I think the caveat is the GBHL and the SBG community is so welcoming.
Yeah.
That it isn't like it's the tournament scene. Like,
no.
It's just a group of like-minded people who love Middle Earth and the hobby. So games. I think there is something for everyone.
I think for me, you know, if you're just getting into the game, I don't think it's a necessary purchase. I think you've probably got other things that you'd be wanting to spend your money on before you go out and buy this, because you've still got 12 scenarios that you haven't played to death like the rest of us.
Yeah.
12 scenarios is more than enough. You know, that's 24 games if you play each one twice.
Yep.
You know, that's plenty to get your teeth into. But for tournament veterans or people who've already played those scenarios a lot, I think this book is a must buy. So I think we shall leave it there. We are going to be coming back very soon with a couple more videos. We are going to be taking a closer look at the 6 new scenarios for singles, and we will be taking a look at the 6 new doubles scenarios as well. So look out for that video coming very, very soon. So I've been Top Table Ben.
And I've been Top Table Jay.
And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to support the channel, make sure you're checking out all the links in the description below. We've got links to all our social media accounts, such as Instagram and Twitter. We've got a link to our Top Table Gaming Community Facebook page. And if you really want to help the channel out, go and check out our Patreon page. See you guys in the next video.
See you later.